Get moving.
Purvis Daubney. Blackstone for a single season. And then he thought to turn away from us. To take from us. That would prove his undoing. That fort had been controlled by 10 warlords in 10 years. Daubney was just the most recent. He joined the Blackstone Legion, and then tried to leave us. That would not stand unpunished. Holden Cross. My second in command and my most stalwart ally. Holden is a practical man of limited ambition, but of endless talent. We are fortunate to have him. Ashfeld. I was born here, out in the scrublands. 20 years ago, the Iron Legion had been on the verge of losing it to the Vikings entirely. Now, my Blackstone Legion had taken it back. So much of warfare is about walls, gates, hills, doors. Every day, battles are won and lost on the choice of battlefield alone. Almost every fortress in these lands was first built a millennium ago. We lay new construction on top of old and call it our own. We're children playing at Empire. The fall of the last sanctuary in Ashfeld. 1,000 years have passed since then. Our ancestors held out for 6 years against 100,000 desperate, starving warriors. Or so the story goes. The fall of the last sanctuary in Ashfeld. 1,000 years have passed since then. Our ancestors held out for 6 years against 100,000 desperate, starving warriors. Or so the story goes. The Iron Legion is made up of many smaller legions. The lion was the symbol of the Regal Legion. They were strong once. Now they have fallen to Blackstone might.
That is how it is done, you see?
The Iron Legion has a habit of mounting warden statues in front of doors. But they are hypocrites. The oaths of a warden reach far beyond what any common Legion warrior can live up to. When we stop fighting against it, nature will always reassert itself. So it is with stone, so it is with plants, with animals, and so it is with people. Warriors rarely see the people their wars affect. The displaced, the murdered, the starving. I saw all that when I was younger. I never forgot the lesson.
This place will help us gather reinforcements. I need to take that garrison.
This year's Viking horde. When Mount Rust erupted, they lost the sun for months. Crops and animals died. They came south, raiding for supplies. They continue to raid Ashfeld yearly.
This place will help us bring archers to the field.
The Iron Legion traces its roots to a much older culture. An ancient empire led by centurions believed to be lost in the destruction. They weren't lost. I have met them. Machines of war. Many of them use plans that we do not fully understand. Techniques handed down through the generations that we have lost the theory for. They work just fine.
This archer point.
Leave none alive!
We were winning. We just needed a final push.
The sanctuary of Harrogate.
Stone was a conqueror, and one of the best I'd ever seen. Stone was Iron Legion. I trusted him.
In the West, punishments like the cage have been outlawed. In Ashfeld, however, we were less reluctant about using brutality to make a point.
Vikings!
When lava cools, it can form a marvel. A black glass that can be sharper than the sharpest blade. High in the mountains, the geyser fields of Ashfeld were where the Iron Legion officially bowed the knee to the Blackstones, and the Royals, and so many others. We chose that place for its history. Legends tell us that it was there that the ancient Viking lords had yielded Ashfeld to our people. Iron Legionnaires are cattle. They fight when it's convenient for them, and run away from any challenge. The Blackstone Legion was my solution to that problem. When I took over the Blackstone Legion, the Vikings had permanent settlements in Ashfeld. Now, those were all gone.
Their commander.
Syngdu hvað þú getur!
We 7 leaders of the Blackstone Legion took demon names. It is
Die, Blackstone dogs!
We all want to be remembered.
I want to talk to some of these deserters.
Once, there were 15 of us in the Blackstone Circle. 8 times, one of us claimed the title of Warlord. 7 times, that Warlord proved too weak, too noble, or too blind to lead us. I am the 8th. The others rest now in their tombs. The children of Ashfeld claim to all follow.
not fear them!
The Vikings are ancient as we are. The difference is, they vanished for centuries. We never left. But any who doubt their claim to these lands need only look at the ruins their ancestors built for them. So many of my people fear the decorations of our savage foes. But I have never feared the demons of my enemies. I am their demon. Wherever we go, the peaceful life that is called civilization scatters. It is a social agreement that is so easily dissolved. Fragile. The Vikings have filled their mountains and valleys with horns and drums and signal fires. We were never going to slip into Valkenheim unnoticed. That is why I chose to enter through the front door.
It wasn't a good plan. It was just my only option.
It's cold.
The cataclysm was not one event. It was many. Lands rose and fell. The sky rained fire, ash, and worse things. The seas rose and then retreated. It is a miracle that any of us are still here. Our technology is what separates us from the Vikings. And with these, we would make the so-called impassable defense of the gates of Valkenheim meaningless.
We were prepared for this place.
Fire!
I am Apollyon. I was a warden once. Now, I have become something greater. I am the 8th warlord of the Blackstone Legion. The only one strong enough to survive. And through me, this land will see a new age. The Vikings have raided every year for as long as I can remember. They sack, loot, burn. My village was destroyed by them. Mine and hundreds of others. Now, we would turn the tables. Valkenheim, home of the invaders who call themselves Vikings. It had been 40 years ago that knights last crossed the threshold into that great valley. Whatever happened in there, we would certainly be remembered.
The Vikings had numbers. We had technology.
The ancient kings of the Vikings were mighty. They sailed across the ocean, and when the seas froze, they were lost to history. And then, they came back.
The Viking tribes all have different customs. These look to be war-born offerings, probably for strength in war. Holden should never have sent those scouts ahead. He should have sent me first. Why didn't I say anything? Apollyon asked me to clear the way. They docked their boats there. So there was a path to the top. I was sure of it. Soldiers cry and cringe and rage when they see their friends hanged. Sometimes I pretend to share in their grief. Other times... The volcano in Ashfeld gave Valkenheim 2 years of frozen rivers. We were there to take advantage of their disaster. Like us, most of the Vikings don't even know their own history. These are their ancestral lands, lost a millennium ago. They returned from across the sea and reclaimed them. There had to be a better way inside than the front door. I had my pride to consider. It's sad. Getting inside was easier than I expected. Vikings love to feast. Maybe I could find a way to shut them in. Their machinery was far beyond what I had expected to find. Since the last time I'd been through, they had uncovered a new source of lore. Or perhaps just a very clever engineer. The machinery was well made, but I had a job to do. Too bad, really. To be careful here.
Territory. There was no way home but forward.
The ancient name for these structures is Trilithon. I asked a Viking once what she thought they were for. She didn't know. She said they'd just always been there. The Vikings have always warred with themselves much more than with us. It is in their nature to feast on each other. That nature has been stolen from them.
Protect the ram!
The Vikings are so very careful to equitably distribute their food supplies. It all passes through Sverigard. And in winter, most of it is stored there. We knew at Sverigard that within a day, Viking ships would fill the harbor and their army would destroy us. But I intended to be long gone before that could happen.
To protect and operate the ram until we broke through.
We dragged our ram's machinery across Valkenheim. We had to hack down half a forest in a fortnight to build it. But without it, we would have come all that way just to be slain at the front door. We could have broken open that gate with a far smaller ram. But that would have taken time. Time that the Vikings would have used to reinforce. The fortress of Sverngard was home to many of the wealthiest Viking clans. The merchant trades always produced such people. Now they would have to fight for their food. I am Apollyon. I have come to instruct. For too long, the fearful prey among the Vikings have whispered their lies of peace. Now, that era ends.
Town. A trading post.
The legendary Jarl Gudmundur. In another time, he would have been a king, beloved by his people, the fiercest of warriors. Whoever faced him would either become another notch in that belt of his, or become legend.
That day. They left us no choice.
There's nowhere to retreat!
We would leave survivors to tell the tale of what had been lost at Sverngard. And when they heard, they would come, looking for what was left.
This is the only way.
Vengeance!
That gate! Let's burn it!
The Vikings were long thought to be just a legend, a story we told ourselves, an ancient threat that once ruled the North. Then, centuries ago, they returned from across the sea. In the wild, the strong feed on the weak. Yet, in our...
Protect this! Guard this!
We will protect this.
Burn them out!
A vast forest once covered the valley of Valkenheim. We knights cleared that land before the Vikings returned. And when we did, we revealed the ancient ruins of the warborn clans. Imagine our surprise.
The food is life for our people! Guard it!
The raider was right. Food was here.
Join us, Vikings! We've got them!
Even if their mastery of steel is not as complete as ours, they are nevertheless an endlessly inventive people. We underestimate their creativity at our peril. For a full year, the cranes and scaffolds and lumber mills of the Vikings stood silent. No time for building while contemplating my lesson. They had wolves to feed. Vikings record the exploits of their greatest heroes in stone. The markers remind them of the debt of glory that must be paid to enter Valhalla. To die in battle is one thing. To die a legend is another.
Burn
The
them out.
Vikings suffered in the year after we struck them. No seed grain, no summer harvest. No harvest, no food for the winter. So, like all the other clans, the Warborn were starving. It takes a special kind of madness to eat and drink and make merry while your warriors fight and burn and die outside. Ragnar was that kind of wolf. The Bearclaw clan crushed all resistance. They forced the other clans to serve them. Their warlord, Civ, was ruthless in her pursuit of power. I liked her. We build new structures on top of the sanctuaries left by our ancestors. But they never match the glory of our past. They were great. We have much to learn from them. A millennium ago, Valkenheim was the site of a vast Nordic empire. The earth swallowed them whole. Now, in places, the rains slowly reveal that past. What else lurks beneath the soil, I wonder? The Vikings worship gods of wood, of storms, and of stone. The samurai gods are of fire, of wind, and of thought. The gods of the knights are iron, steel, and gold. But power, that we agree on.
What are they doing here?
Warborn prisoners. I would free them.
The more glory a Viking earns, the greater their legend when they are gone. But unlike us, their gods require them to share that glory with the weakest among them. Through example, we knights accidentally taught the Vikings the art of siege warfare. I like to think that, in turn, they showed us how to live free.
These Blackstones have done a poor job of fortifying our defenses.
Once the Blackstones were pushed out of Valkenheim, the Vikings would put their shipwrights and their lumber mills back to work. And then they would need a target. The Vikings like to tell stories about why they decorate their ships with monsters. But the simplest explanation is the best one. They do it to frighten their enemies. The Vikings had built up their settlements and shipyards over decades, centuries. It took a little more than a year for it all to fall into disrepair.
Deus vivesne! Eus armate! Puto comitem adimus! Ego precipitunt!
Viking clans do not truly join one another. Alliances are common, but are just as commonly broken. The Warborn clans is just a way of saying all the clans who cannot defeat the Warborn in combat. The runes of the Vikings and our own letters must have a common ancestor. The difference is that our letters can be drawn with a quill, whereas theirs require only a chisel.
Where's the damn gate controls?
The war machines of the samurai often make ours look like toys. They learned much during their exodus, and from many different peoples. The seafort of the samurai guarded one of the very few places in the mire where a fleet could safely come to shore. And the samurai had no ancient ancestors in these lands. They came after the fall from another land far to the east. But they had been enthusiastic in their rebuilding.
The battle was won. Only their commander remained.
Beyond that fortress lay the mire. Acres of unforgiving swampland. And a natural defense for the samurai city beyond. That city was what the Vikings had come for. Before the waters receded, that entrance was a canal. Imagine. ships sailing through into waters that are now only swamp. The world has changed. The fort's commander was Fujikyo, a samurai champion. His name had reached...
Let's start by finding an outpost, or a camp, or something.
Taking the beach was one thing. Crossing the mire was another. But there was no plunder to be gained along the shore. The wealth of the samurai lay beyond the swamp. The first scout group the Vikings sent out into the mire never returned. Nor the second. Nor the third. Control and defense of the mire is split among the many houses of the daimyo. Their defenses vary in quality, but none of their defenders lack in skill. 500 years the samurai have been here. Long enough to call this place their home. Long enough for their work to fall into ruin. Still, we treat them like newcomers.
I should proceed to the docks.
The mire is a dreadful place for an army. It can swallow up an entire force without a trace. Its paths shift and change. But boats are no safer when your enemy has hidden catapults and fire.
Where are your maps?
The mire would claim many Viking lives if their scouts could not find a safe way through to the city. Or even if they could. Whoever the lone scout was who found that monastery must have wondered what a Blackstone knight's body was doing there so far from home. They would find out soon enough. He failed to escape their homeland during their exodus. I have not heard any tales that describe his fate. But I do know that the Emperor who rules their city now is false. 1,000 years ago, this place was underwater, a sea. Our people made cities on its shoreline. Now, it is a jungle, claimed by anyone who passes through it. I think I prefer it this way.
Gods, I hope there are maps up there.
Vikings came into the mire once before, decades ago. They came through the waterways with their ships. The sounding of the gongs filled the air. By nightfall, no Viking stood in samurai lands. It was a lesson they would not forget. The daimyo in the mire claim to be at peace. But it is strange for a people who are at peace to fight so many battles with each other each year.
Don't want to stir up too much trouble.
To the samurai, taking someone prisoner dishonors them. But to a knight, it is an act of mercy. And to a Viking, it means they become your slave. How much of our hatred comes from this misunderstanding? The Vikings built flimsy war machines to break down rotten gates. That bridge was once unassailable. Now it was simply an open walkway.
Keep moving forward!
When my people see these statues, they often believe them to be gods or spirits, holy to the samurai. Why is it so hard for us to imagine that they are simply art? On days of peace, the samurai bells fill the sky with
I needed to clear those archers myself.
When the samurai came into these lands, new plants and animals came with them. They had brought them in caravans. They knew their home was failing. They sought to remake it here. Within that city, the false emperor ruled from his palace. All samurai swore allegiance to him and to his family. They believe they revere unity and honor. In fact, they are simply afraid to be free.
Way through. Fire would do it.
Once the bridge gate fell to the war-born raider, the Vikings swarmed into the city. Fortunately for the outnumbered samurai, the barbarians were only seeking plunder. The Orochi that Ayu freed was no ordinary duelist or scout. Had that jail been broken open sooner, the Vikings perhaps would have stayed on that bridge. Some of the samurai wear sentiment as a shield. Poems and proverbs to reassure and calm such sheep. Yet, the true warriors walk among them. They are desperate to be freed.
Done! We go! Agreed?
How many layers of civilization lie within that city? We ruled it for a time, but those first builders were not our ancestors. Nor were they samurai, or any other living people. Lost to time, those first architects. The Imperial Palace, added atop the city by the second of the new emperors, to celebrate his own glory. A scar of indulgence on an otherwise honorable people. The seventh new emperor had a river diverted to pass through the palace. They harnessed its power to automate machinery, carry away waste, and to irrigate their cliff gardens. Ingenious. Long ago, the samurai arrived in a land already inhabited. They were forced to live where others would not, in the fens and wastelands and crags. And along the way, they learned to tame the dangers that we were afraid to touch.
Fire and poison and steel. It was working. But we needed to push them back.
A monk once told me that true peace is the product of one's mind and body working in perfect harmony. A battlefield, then, is one of the most peaceful places you can be. Where are you hiding? What the samurai could not admit to themselves was that they were already at war with each other. All I did was show them that fact.
I found the foe! Danja was pious. Piety.
Apollyon is a demon name. I chose it when I took command of the Blackstones. It means destroyer. Holden's demon name is Asmodai. Recently, he has preferred his given name. Strange.
I found the foe!
I'm going to find you.
We left 4 daimyo in the swamp. Had they been other than those 4, they would have joined forces and solved their problems. But I had chosen well.
I see the enemy! I hear someone! I'm with you!
Who goes there?
The enemy! Yes, sir!
Kazan was... Enemy is here!
Prepare
Stand
for
your
death,
ground!
dog! My troops won't break so easily!
Our world is filled with buried cities, sunken fortresses, and lost ruins. But in the mire, those crumbled remains are only a few centuries old. Time moves much more quickly there.
Dokuja was a coward. He had been given everything. He had never learned compassion.
I am better fit to rule. You know this.
You cannot be trusted. I know you. Enemy troop!
I found the foe! Something's moving over there! Enemy troops!
Run and hide! You always have.
The waters of the mire rise and fall. Solid ground shifts and moves. Every attempt to build permanent structures there has resulted in disaster. What impressed me most about the daimyo Ayu was her ruthlessness. Yet, she lies to herself about her reasons for what she did. I believe it was unimaginable to her that she simply wanted power.
Hope Ayu is still alive. Apollyon is the real enemy, but we're the only ones who know.
Death waits for us at the end of every road. Somewhere out there, each person has an enemy who will bring about their end. A warrior does not let that knowledge interfere with their duty. The Dawn Empire is vast. Any untamed lands the Knights abandoned, any secluded region the Vikings could not reach, there you will find samurai. They are persistent.
These Vikings need to be taught a lesson.
I offered the Emperor's throne to 20 daimyo. 5 proved willing to say they would take it to an enemy they knew was untrustworthy. 5 liars. 5 cowards. I had been hoping for more.
Gotta get to the fight. These Vikings need to be taught a lesson.
The samurai are so few. They live under the constant threat of extinction. Each warrior has to be the equal of 10 of ours or more if they are to survive. The trees of the mire had witnessed 7 wars among the samurai fought, just in the 20 years that I had been rising among the Blackstones. So much for unity. There are several ways to break a siege. By shattering the gate, by storming the walls, by starving them out, or by knowing a secret way in and having the right kind of warrior to use it.
Come on.
Seijuro accepted my offer. The palace was his. And at least 50 of the greatest warriors the samurai chose to fight beside him. They were few, but they were mighty.
You used to live here? You used to live here?
Only the most devoted warriors had answered Seijuro's call. At a word, they were prepared to die for their warlord. There it is, the price of unity.
It's very pretty.
I had looked into Seijuro's eyes. He was unapologetic in his desire for power. Other daimyo saw this as a flaw. Other daimyo are rotting corpses. The city of the samurai stands on a high mesa, surrounded by forest. It is one of the most secure fortresses in the land. It has been twice
Seijuro had the best fighters with him. We would need that strength.
You used to live here?
I wish that I had been there that day. To see the daimyo Ayu and her army lay siege to their own palace. I only wish it had taken longer. The Dawn Empire stretches far to the east. Their capital is here, yet it was not always. For many generations, their emperor lived elsewhere. He was driven here, I think. I would like to know by what. Few fortresses are better prepared to withstand a siege than that place. My own Blackstone fortress could not hope to endure for 1/10 of the time. The 10th Emperor.
Too many warriors were dying. We needed to find Seijuro. Search the palace. Seijuro have to be nearby. We needed to understand what was happening in Ashfeld. So we explored.
Ashfeld liked to remind us of her catastrophic past. Occasionally the ground would shake and a new fire pit would appear. A warning that what had happened once can happen again.
Where is the army?
The samurai were coming. The citizens of Ashfeld had long left the wilderness for the safety of my walls. For we are their protectors, are we not? The Iron Legion lands to the south were more stable than ours. Peaceful. Ashfeld itself fought against stability. And we are all reflections of our homes. Since the war with the Vikings, the Blackstone Legion had put down 7 rebellions. Martial law was the only law our people understood. By the time the samurai came to Ashfeld, the other legions were gone. Yet, the Iron Commanders continued to send us reinforcements and material. We were grateful, even if they are misguided. The ruins outside the Blackstone fortress were fought over again and again. Gangs of thugs, highwaymen, toughs, fighting for every last scrap. Fertile soil for my legion.
Check out this creepy castle.
Criminals in expensive armor. Our quiet scouting mission had taken a very loud turn.
Many of the structures in Ashfeld have long ago collapsed. But there are still places where you can see the grandness of the ancients, almost intact. Places that have stood for over 1,000 years. Lakes of acid still linger in Ashfeld. Once, this whole place was nothing more than a scar. We all know now which rivers are clean and which can kill.
Ow!
Run, run, run!
es einig ist!
We should probably move faster.
Even after fire rained from the sky, even after the rivers turned to acid, even after the earth broke open and the seas churned, even after all that, life persists. Existence is battle. To breathe is to fight. The old cathedral in the plains outside the Blackstone fortress was once a part of a larger city. Everything else is gone now, sunken into the earth. Only the one building, a bridge, and other bits and pieces remain. The ancient bridge at the old cathedral is tattered. One day soon, I think it will fall. Join so many other structures like it.
Ow!
You okay? I think more are coming.
So good.
I pit the Vikings
Destroying
against
their
each other,
catapults was our
and
first
the samurai.
priority.
Of course, I did the same to my own people. Ashfeld has become a place where no dishonesty can endure. All here know their place. All here understand their nature. Predator or prey. The samurai have struck at my home for weeks. Now, they have cracked open the gate. I hope they burn in the very fires they have lit.
I need to find a way up.
The Blackstone Fortress. I took it from a petty lord, one of the last leaders in Ashfeld who dared call himself noble. Now, only warriors rule here. I have defended the lower tiers. Now I have been forced back into the upper levels. The escape passages are all blocked. I had them sealed long ago. We will win or die. My war has come home at last. I will not flee from it. I will win. I do not envy the meek and helpless common folk. They live a life of fear. They cannot defend themselves. They cannot be blamed for being what they are. But neither should they be allowed to deny it.
They are no match for us!
This place is called the Shard. It appears to be a castle on a hill, but I have been in its depths.
I know that night. Apollyon was back there somewhere. She would not have needed to block the entrances, to cut off their reinforcements. All that was left was up. Can't let their leaders escape. I couldn't risk Apollyon escaping. I had to find her.
My castle is vast. It has had many owners. Each legion in turn redecorated to suit their own fashion. I prefer to leave their decorations intact. After all, they are no more. Their symbols are now trophies of my kills.
Let me find her.
Each legion that falls beneath me, each house that we vanquish, each people that we destroy, I keep mementos. I have hundreds.
No one can beat my master!